Just a trigger warning before we start. In this episode, we do cover topics including sexual abuse.
Well, welcome back to the Woo, the Science, and
You! I'm Dr. Sophie.
And I'm Jess and Sophie.
I like the fact that you had to look at the screen to check what our name is. You're like, what are we called again? What's the podcast called?
But in this episode, actually, we've got some really interesting stuff that we want to tell you about. We're going to be talking all about over to Dr. Soph.
We're going to be talking about weight loss, which is something that is, gosh, so many podcasts on, so much information out there, but we're going to have a slightly different take on it. We haven't discussed this at all, really, have we? So
No.
I have an interest in kind of obesity management from a medical point of view and also from my lifestyle medicine point of view. And
actually, do you know what conversations just come back to me? So when Sophie and I did the firewalk, we were talking about this, and I brought up, reasons why people don't tend to lose weight, and then that correlated with patients that you were seeing. Should we go into it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want to lead?
No, you start.
I don't know how to start now. So basically, like, if you're listening to this, I would imagine that most women, and even like some men, I mean, I can't really talk about it from a men's perspective because I don't really know. Actually, scrap that bit. Most people at some stage in their life, they want to get fit, they want to get healthy, they go on a diet. And what tends to happen, I would say, to the majority of people, they start with healthy diets, healthy eating, exercising, they lose weight, they start to feel really good, and then they stop. And then they don't continue with they don't continue going to the gym, they don't continue with exercising, they don't continue with the healthy eating, and then they make it mean something which isn't true, such as, oh God, I'm a failure, I'm never going to lose this weight, I'm never going to be healthy, and then that narrative starts to play around in their thoughts and their subconscious. But this is the thing. If we just focus on diet and exercise, those two things 100% help with weight loss, because you're eating better, you're losing weight. However, the thing that sustains it is making sure that you're in alignment with your true beliefs, your core beliefs, and the desired outcome. And what that means is, if, for example, you have experienced something when you were your ideal weight that felt quite traumatic, and it could be sexual abuse, it could be unwanted attention, it could be, when you were growing up, people were jealous because you were thin or whatever it was, your experience creates beliefs that it's not safe for you to be that desired weight. So what happens when we start to lose weight, or we start to try and get back to the weight we were, our subconscious will automatically start to make us think things that aren't true, such as, oh, you haven't got time to go to the gym, or you can't really be bothered doing this, or, no, if you have that MACDs or whatever it is, to prevent you from actually losing the weight. But once you actually go to the root cause and change your beliefs, the weight loss is sustainable.
Yeah. So I think what I'd shared with you, isn't it, is that I have had patients over the years, one kind of memorable, and she was it was really affecting her health, her weight. She was officially kind of morbidly obese, and she was so upset. And the difficulty is, from the medical point of view, we often have created weight stigma. So without meaning to, doctors say things like, well, have you thought about losing weight? That might help your knees, and things like that. And what we know actually is, if you're not careful, that actually makes people more likely to put on weight.
Yes.
So it's very difficult for, people who are overweight know they're overweight. So us telling them they're overweight isn't going to be like, oh, really? Thanks so much. No, I'll sort that out now. So it's kind of about recognizing what that person has got to that weight. Not everyone has had trauma to get there. But typically, the people who are morbidly obese, something usually has happened. That's what I've found with my patients. And there was one patient who I asked her, I said, is it all right if I talk about your weight? And I think that's really important as well, that we do that. And she was quiet for a while and then said, yes. And I think even the fact that I had asked, she kind of was more ready to talk to me about it.
Yeah.
Because I hope that I was kind of showing there's no judgment at all here. And so I had a really kind of nice open conversation with her. And then she just was really upset and started crying a lot. And she said, I think it's because when I was raped when I was 15, when I was slim, and I wanted to make myself disgusting. I wanted to make it so that no one would ever do that to me again. Gosh, and I tell you, I'm usually like pretty steely with patients, but when I had this conversation with her, and I just thought, I don't think she's told people this. And I just thought, oh my gosh, right. So there's no point me telling you to go away and eat more protein and eat fiber, which is kind of sensible things. But obviously there's something so much deeper that's causing emotional trauma here, that's causing her emotional eating. So yeah, I think there's so many cases you need to get to that root cause.
And also things as well, like, so that's tapping into her survival instinct. So if she loses weight, again, that experiences, she's connected being thinner with rape. But just going back to it, so we have quite a few belief coders that have used belief coding to lose weight and stuff, but it always stems back. And when I say trauma, there's like big T and little t, isn't there? So trauma, when we use the word, we think, abuse, we think domestic violence, whereas actually, if we look at it from a negative experience perspective, so our subconscious, it runs towards pain and it runs away from pleasure. Doesn't run towards pain. I've got that totally mixed up. That would be really detrimental. It runs towards pleasure and it runs away from pain. So any painful experience or negative experience that we associate to being thin or attractive will then avoid as being thin and attractive. And even like with myself, so I would say my weight used to fluctuate from about 10 stone to about 13 stone. And now, probably between 9.5 stone actually to about 13 stone. Whereas now it fluctuates from about 10 stone to maybe like 10. But every time I work on myself to be like, right, why am I doing this action, And I used to have experiences where literally I'm really hoping to God that you do this stuff, because I know a lot of women used to do this, but I'd go through stages where literally I'd raid my fridge and I'd be like, right, I'm going to eat everything in this fridge. Then I'd have like 3 vanilla slices, like 10 chocolate bars, I'd have a couple of biscuits, then I'd finish the whole packet, then I'd eat crisps. And I'd just have a full day just eating food. And then when I started to work with the subconscious, I had a day like that and I was like, wow, that's really interesting. Why have I done that? Like, what purpose have I done that? And the trigger was grief. So, the trigger was grief. So when I worked back, it's because I felt guilty for not allowing myself to feel the grief. So I was taking it out on my body to punish myself.
Yeah.
Anyway, since I've sort of healed that negative experience, I haven't had a day where I've ate everything in eyesight.
Yeah. Well, I think even for people who... Probably people might be listening thinking, well, this isn't me. I haven't gone through this horrible trauma. That's not, and I'm not massive, but I think there is always that slight emotional link with food.
Yeah.
And what I say to patients, and I've created a series on my YouTube channel, on my Dr. Sophie GP channel about this, is the most important thing is creating a good relationship with food.
Yeah.
So that's why so many of these diets, fad things, it's a disaster. Mm-hmm. It's a disaster for your mental health, for your mental well-being. It's actually also a disaster for your physiology, because how it affects your hormones. If you're doing this kind of yo-yo dieting, your body then wants to keep on holding on to weight and makes you hungry all the time. Mm-hmm. And then what comes with that is then the guilt. Because even people who are like, just want to lose weight to look good on holiday, it's very difficult. And then you end up going, why am I a failure that I can't keep up with this? Why am I B, so greedy? And then there's this guilt and I say to people, right, shake that off, right? Yeah. This is the first things first. This is human nature. We're all like this. We were meant to be hunter-gatherers. We weren't meant to have all this kind of sugar and calories available to us. Our bodies are tuned to want to take it on, because we don't know when the next kind of food is going to come. That's how we're meant to be.
Well, also as well, so do you know, like when you look at, from a belief perspective, what you've just said then, it kind of taps into the Second World War and the First World War, where literally, my grandparents were in the war because they had my mum quite late. But everyone who's listening to this, their grandparents or definitely their great-grandparents would have literally been in the war, where they were the food of famine. So from a generational perspective and a behavioural perspective, our great grandparents that were in the war, they went through like rationing food. Mm-hmm. So then when food was available, they had to eat everything on the table because of their past experiences where they experienced not having it. So that imprinted of, I need to eat this in case that happens again.
Yeah.
So that belief gets passed down.
Instinct.
Yeah, totally. And then it gets passed down to our parents, our grandparents. You've got to eat everything on your plate. Make sure you eat up. Because from their experience, and this is why sort of like obesity started to come in, because everyone was finishing everything on the plate rather than working with the natural rhythm of the body and stopping eating when their bodies were full.
Yeah, it is such an important thing to learn, to kind of, to listen to your hunger cues. But the difficulty is, if you have been doing the yo-yo dieting and you are in a bigger body, the difficulty is you are hungry a lot. So you do have to try really hard at first to get out of that habit. So it doesn't necessarily come all that easy, but there are techniques, and that's when it comes down to... I feel like
you need to share a technique now. Yeah, I feel like if I was listening to this, I'd be like, okay, but what are the techniques?
Tell us a technique. So for example, protein is the most satiating nutrient. So most of us do not eat enough protein.
Yeah.
So if you're not eating enough protein, if you're just having like carb heavy or, other things, then you're not going to get full. So you're going to eat more. So focus on making sure you have loads of protein.
Isn't that interesting as well? Because we've been taught, haven't we, that carbs to make you feel full.
I remember my mum was definitely always said to me, well, carbs are filling.
Yeah.
Not as
Beating
filling
the
as...
pasta and the potatoes before I went running.
Yeah, protein is what fills you the most.
Yeah.
And I don't eat meat. So I have to be clever and think about how much protein, because it's not as readily absorbable from plant-based foods. But so you've got to think about that. And fiber, soluble fiber, insoluble fiber, it fills you, it feeds your gut bacteria, it makes you poo more.
I'm joking.
So one of my videos is called kind of lose weight, eat more, because actually what you should be and that's the kind of the joy of food. Try it, because we want to love food.
Yeah, we
Food's
do.
amazing. So instead of thinking, right, I can't eat biscuits, I can't eat crisps, I can't drink wine anymore. Think about, right, instead of focusing on what you can't do, focus on the positives of things you can do. And then if there are things, for example, a lot of people might be drinking too much, which is rubbish for weight, rubbish for your health generally. I mean, we both do enjoy a tipple. But so I say to people, right, so let's say at the moment, what are you drinking at night time? They might say, I'm having 3 glasses of wine of an evening or whatever. And instead of saying, right, don't drink wine of an evening anymore, that's never going to happen.
Because they enjoy it. They've connected that relaxation with everything.
Because the thing about the diet, just any change you make has to be a change you make forever. So what are you going to do? What could you do in the next week? So could you drink 2 glasses of wine?
Or what you could do is you could still have the 3 glasses, but you could half each glass.
Exactly. And so I say, if you could get a little goal book and write down your little goal, and then write down what might make you not achieve that. Well, I'm going out this week. So, okay. And what could you do to help this? Oh, I could get my husband on board. He can help me too. And write a little, and then review it after the week. And if you've achieved it, literally tick it. I think there's something quite physical about that.
Tick off you. But it's connecting to that pleasure response. Yeah. But again, just going back to the belief thing, right? So everything that we say we're going to do and we don't do, it's literally from experiences with working with different people, it always stems back to there not being a subconscious benefit, to us not fulfilling it. So like what you're saying, if we do the tick off list, you're starting to create that subconscious benefit all of the time. Yeah. And if there's ever, because we do it all the time, don't we? We say we're going to do something, then we don't do it. And then we don't understand why we haven't done the thing that we say we're going to do. But it's literally because there is a benefit, like subconsciously and unconsciously, that it benefits you not to do the thing you say you're going to do.
Yeah. Yeah. So you have to think about, I would say, in fact, at the front of your goal book, write down, why is it important to you to be in a smaller body? So
emotionally connect to it.
Yeah, emotionally connect to it. Absolutely. So hopefully it's not just because you want to look good in a bikini, but we have to be realistic. People do want to look better.
And also as well, if they can attach a safety element to it. So like, what would be the ultimate benefit from, the reason why I say safety benefit is because, again, like essentially every time something feels negative, it's because there's an element of not being safe. So we might get judged, not necessarily safety is in there's a tiger chasing you, but what would present safety in the body when you're trying to lose weight as well?
Yeah. I like it.
I feel like I just got off on a tangent that it just dropped into, and I was like, I need to get it out now.
Quick, say the safety thing. That's
safety in the body.
That's why it's okay. The woo came out.
The woo totally came out. I was like, yeah, bring it in. Safety in the body.
And I just nod, whatever you just said, I'm on board.
Back to Dr. Sophie, go quick. I'm going to have my tea because I've hardly embarrassed myself.
No, I was just going to say, and also because we do the easier thing.
Yeah.
We do the thing that we're used to, the habit we're used to. We do the easier thing. We default. We're busy, we're stressed as well.
It's the comfort zone as well. So the easier thing is like, do you know, I'll do that tomorrow, I'll do that now. Yeah. Because again, when we step out that comfort zone, there's all these different things attached. Well, can I maintain it? If I don't maintain it, I'm going to be a failure. Yeah. And I've gone back into the woo there. I think I just like the sound of my own voices.
No, this is your job. Your job is to go in the woo. Do not apologise for that. But I would say, so I think you have to disrupt your routines. Yeah. So for example, if you always get up in the morning and eat rubbish whilst change your routine in the morning. So in the morning, why don't you get up and go for a little walk instead?
Yeah. Do you know what, actually? That's totally right. So you can do a thing called a trigger response. So if they, like you just said then, if they usually have a cup of tea with a biscuit in the morning, they know that's the action. So what action can they replace that with? Exactly. And that old action will be the trigger point to create the new action. Yeah.
And then set yourself up to make that easier. For example, leave your walking shoes by the front door. Make it so that this is the easiest option for you, rather than, because the thing is, like, how much we have, like, a lot of food available to us that's easy to grab. You've got a snack, like we've got a snack cupboard. that's full of
Well,
treats.
we have a snack cupboard, but I swear to God, it's never full. Like,
I know.
I swear I've just put a lot of biscuits worth. Oh God.
That's because we have 8 children between us who are hungry. I know, because that's the other thing though. This should not be about never eat the snacks. Like, I'm really careful with my kids. We talk about weight neutrality. We talk about not commenting, certainly not on anybody else's shape, but also not on your own shape. Just focus on being healthy. Although I thought I was totally going to nail this because I know all about how to do it. But when I don't want to say too much to embarrass one of my children, but when she did comment on her belly being too big, and I was like, oh no, I failed. Because I was like, no. This isn't what we do. We don't. And I'm really careful not to say anything about my body in front of the kids. But she did comment, and I think that's because there's all these. She's on social media. Yeah. She's got kids who talk about, it's at school, so it's hard to get away with. So hopefully, I can give her the tools.
Yeah.
To understand also, that.
Do you know what's interesting actually? Because I had the same thing with one of the girls. Well, 2 of them actually. So one of them like said to her sister, she's like, "Oh my God, I mean, this like this child is like, she's got a beautiful little figure. She's like tiny little rake." She's like, "Oh, maybe I shouldn't have that because I'm getting fat." And I was like, "Oh," and I think like you, so conscious to make sure this doesn't happen, but in the sense of, it's other stuff sometimes that they take on and like, it's what are they saying? Okay, maybe that's normal. Maybe this is not normal. And then like my other daughters, when you give them compliments, she's like, "Oh, you look so beautiful." She's like, "Oh my God, no, I look awful." Like, I'm like, what the? But when they say it, sometimes I think, does she think it or is she hearing it, which makes her think it's the right thing to say? Do you get me?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
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 I think so bloody hard parenting.
So not only have we got to manage our own.
How can we get a ban on this TikTok?
Yeah, but I think actually being aware.
Yeah.
I think those are good tips for people who've got kids, because it's boys as well. I mean, there's a huge increase in eating disorders in boys as well. So I think trying not, because loads of my friends will say their mums were always on a diet. Spent their entire time, and also judge them still now. Judge them as women, going, "Oh, you look like you could lose some weight," or "Do you sure you want that extra slice?" and things like that. And it's like, no, don't do it.
Yeah,
don't do it.
My mum. So when I was 18, I went to work in Magaluf, and I had this like gorgeous little figure. And then I came back. This is where the yo-yo dating started. And I'd gone from being like a size 8, and I went up to being about a size 16. So when I came back, and my mum hadn't seen me, she's like, "Oh my God!" She called me fat ass, no class, and wide ass whale, and moon face.
I shouldn't be laughing.
No, I know, but I bulimia. Like literally, like it took me onto like, honestly, like but I say that's what created. Obviously, that didn't create it, but those deep wounds, like they were triggered. But imagine your mum calling you. I mean, my mum is amazing, by the way. Anyone listening to this, she's definitely redeemed herself. Imagine calling your daughter fat ass, no glass, and wide ass whale. I was like, what the fuck?
Oh no. Oh, well, yeah, she's amazing, your mum. I'll stand by that.
Yeah, she's amazing. I think she had her own things as well, and like, it's learnt behaviour, isn't it? We pass it down.
Well, I was lucky because my mum has always been great and didn't mention it. But then I did some modelling when I was 15, somebody came up to me and asked me to join, and I ended up doing modelling in Manchester and London. But they continually told me I was far too fat. Wow. Like far too fat. And I was... teeny.
I've seen pictures,
and I kept trying to lose weight, but I was always sensible Sophie. So I was going to the gym loads, and I was eating. I think I just cut calories down, which I didn't know anything else. But actually, I cut calories by eating pot noodles because I discovered they were low calorie. I did stupid things like that because I didn't know any better. Yeah. But I was cutting calories, but I was eating meals and doing lots of exercise. But then I stopped losing weight. I went to my GP. I must have probably been maybe 17 at this point, and said, "I can't lose any weight." And she said, "Sophie, you're already underweight. So your body is hanging on. It doesn't want you to lose weight." And I was like, oh. And then, so when they spoke to me, the model agency, and they were like, "Oh, Paris want you, Japan want you." And I'd taken a year out after my A-levels. I planned to do that before uni to model, because they'd said, "Yep, this is going to be big." But they said, "You need to lose a stone." And I said to them, "Listen, I'm trying and I'm not losing weight."
Can I ask, because you're tall, like we're the same height, we're like 5'9".
Yeah.
So what weight and dress size were you when they were telling you that you needed to lose another stone?
I was a size 8. I think it was 9 stone. Yeah, I was
so
9
you would have been like a size like 4 or something tiny. Like you would have been literally.
Well, no, I think I was always a size. I don't know.
Yeah.
I wasn't like really thin.
No, but you like, so that, like, even like, so being 5'9", being a size 8, that's a nice, like, between, I would say, like an 8 and a 12 is a really kind of nice, healthy looking weight. But anything smaller, that is crazy.
Yeah. And then so I said to them, I can't lose weight. And they said, right, just don't have any breakfast, have a coffee and a fag at lunchtime, and then just have something to eat in the evening. I was 17.
Wow.
Imagine. And for some reason, I did have the kind of ability to realize that was wrong.
Yeah.
And I'd said to them, because I'd already met Paul at that point, my husband, because we've been together forever and ever. And we were planning on going to Australia together. And I'd heard, because there's a lot of swimwear and stuff over there, that they don't want skinny girls. They don't look good in swim costumes. And so I said to her, oh, well, I'm thinking of taking a year out and going to Australia. I've heard they don't like girls quite as thin over there. And she went, yes, but Sophie, they still want slim girls. As if I wasn't even slim, as if I wouldn't even get into that category. And I just thought, I'm not doing this. Yeah. And I never spoke to them again.
Wow.
After that phone call.
It's crazy though. This is the thing, like when you look back, like 20 years ago, that's our parents' generation, and that's what's been pushed onto us. And then most people, again, because we have this perception of beauty, or that's been passed on to us, again, it's kind of, when we see something that doesn't look like stick thin or, perfection, it messes with your mind. And even now, if you look at social media, and I think this is one thing, like, so I never use filters on social media. I refuse to use them, just because I think if I use, and I don't have anything against people who do, but I think if I use this filter, I'm becoming part of a problem, which is showing that actually the way I look is not enough. The way I am is not enough. And I think this is what our kids are looking at now, all of these filters where they've got the big lips, if we look at quite a few celebrities, I'll look at people. I don't really read magazines. And again, there's no judgment here. But when I see the front covers of magazines, I'm like, oh, who is that? Who's that? They look the same, because everyone is having the same things done, the same cheeks, the same lips, the same hair. Everything is looking the same. But this is what our kids are going into. So I think if it doesn't start with
you're not
us,
attractive unless you have a tiny nose, big lips, all the other stuff.
It's crazy. But I feel like anyway, we've gone back. Do you know, actually, I feel like I need to say this. So I think someone asked me, what is the best thing that we can do for our kids? And I actually heard this. So I think it might have been from Gary V. And when I heard it, I was like, bloody hell, he's so right. So I passed this information on. So I'd love to take credit for this, but it actually came from Gary V. But he said the best thing that you can do is make sure that your kids have so much self-esteem, because if they have high self-esteem, you've got nothing to worry about. And it is so true. If your kids have high self-esteem, they will not follow the crowds. They'll do what's inherently good for them.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. And I once was told that you shouldn't tell your daughters they're beautiful, because therefore they're going to judge themselves on their looks. I actually have thought about this for quite a long time, and I do disagree.
I disagree. You can say they're beautiful and also you're this and you're that. Yeah.
You're so strong, you're so brave, and you're so beautiful. As long as it's not the only kind of good thing you're saying about them. Yeah. I think that's what's really important.
Do you know what, actually, just following on from that, so again, I heard this quote, and it was like, you don't even realise how beautiful you are, but that is the least interesting thing about you, because you're clever, you're funny. Yeah. And I thought, isn't that a great way? You're beautiful, but you're also all of these things. Yeah. Yeah.
So that somehow we need to impart that on our children. Oh, but we've gone a real round robin, haven't we? So those people who want to, well, we were talking about,
So just to recap, subconscious beliefs, great diet.
Protein, fibre, guilt. I think understanding and allowing yourself. I think I often say to people, like, you've got enough going on. Yeah. You've got enough emotional problems, stress. We're all busy. Don't add a layer of guilt that you don't need to add onto yourself about this. So I think that's the first thing. And then, I always say, how long did it take you to get to the size you are now? Because people often say, I didn't used to be like this.
Yeah.
And so, what age were you when you were, they'll say, well, I was 18 and I was slim and now I'm 40. Right. So, but you're expecting to lose weight in 3 months, How long is it taking you to put on this weight? Let's just be generous and think about a plan for, because what you want is lifetime changes.
Yeah. So do you know what else is quite a good thing to do as well? How can you apply fun to the diet, and how can you apply fun to the weight loss? How can you apply fun to your lifestyle?
Absolutely. I am bang up for that, because exactly that. Food should be fun. Yeah. I think that's so important. And exercise as well, because people think, oh God, I've got to exercise. Oh God, I've got to eat healthily. People think of like boring salads and having to go to a gym and being really embarrassed, especially if you are in a bigger body. You don't want to think, God, I've got to get into Lycra and jump up and down.
Do you know what though, right? So I was mentioning to Sophie earlier, so I've started walking. walking, and I try to do around 15,000 steps a day, which is probably about an hour and a half to 2 hours.
Wow.
Which it sounds like a lot, but actually I've lost centimetres around my waist, but it hasn't felt like hard work. Like I'll walk up with the dog to the coffee shop, grab a flat white and walk down, but I'm listening to my podcast, I'm listening to audibles, and then I make sure that I'm constantly walking around the house. And I think sometimes, we think to lose weight has to be this huge thing, whereas actually just going for a walk for 20 minutes is better than no walk for no minutes.
Do you know, I'm a huge fan of what was called exercise snacking. And I think, because I don't get much time to exercise, I only go to the gym once a week. I sometimes do a run. I usually try and do a run once a week as well. And that's pretty much it. But what I do is try and move as much as I can. And so I say this to my patients as well. So because actually when we think about your metabolism, certainly lifting weights and strength training helps your metabolism, but not much. The thing that makes a big difference is avoiding being sedentary. So there's something called NEAT, which is the way that essentially you burn calories. And it's through just movement, that often even just jiggling and moving, we burn calories like that.
So the next episode, me and Sophie are going to be like this. Jiggly.
But my job as a GP, I'm sat. But when I get up and go to the waiting room to call a patient in, I gallop like a total idiot. But everyone essentially now knows that I'm a complete lunatic. Yeah. So they just like, there she is, galloping down the corridor. And I also do stand up probably once an hour and try and do a little, like 30 seconds of explosive movement. I do little squats, little punches, little kicks, just to get my heart rate up and then sit back down. And I think whatever you're doing, because people are starting from completely different base levels. Loads of my patients are like, chair bound. So I'm like, I'm not suggesting you do this or that, but what can you do and then build on it? It's going back to that kind of goal setting. What can you do and build and make it fun? Like I almost laughed to myself galloping down the corridor. I did suggest it to my friend and she was like, I work in an open plan office. I cannot do any of these things you've just said.
That's a belief. Get over the shame about what you do.
Get your office on board. But yeah, maybe that's a step too far. But I was like, well, figure it, go to the stairwell and do a few jump steps, whatever it is, you figure out what works for you.
Yeah, I feel like you've just created something, exercise snacking. Have you made that up?
No, it's a thing.
Oh, I think you should own that. Just have you made that up, Sophie?
Yes,
I love that. I'm going to start exercise snacking.
Yeah, because and interestingly, when I was talking to my friend about it, she was like, "Oh, I sometimes don't even bother doing a Peloton if I've got less than half an hour because I thought any less than half an hour was totally not worth exercising." And I was like, absolutely not. No. So in terms of weight loss, this is the best thing you can do. Yeah. And also, a really interesting study just came out, it was a BMJ, I think, last month, that showed how incredible exercise is for your mental health. Yeah. I mean, we've kind of known it for a while, but even just walking, especially if you can be outside in nature. Yeah. So, like at lunchtime, that's the other thing I do. I do like a 3-minute walk around the block at lunchtime because I'm busy. I don't have too long. But I sometimes I call Paul and chat to him, but sometimes I just walk. I try and even look up at the trees, just to literally see even just the sky, the clouds, try and have like 3 minutes of walking, slight mindfulness, and then I'm back to work. And that makes a massive difference to my afternoon. Yeah. So it's amazing for your weight, your mental well-being. And I think people often think I can't, like patients say to me all the time, I can't because I get breathless. I can't because my knees hurt. I can't. And I say, okay, but what can you do then? Yeah. Like, let's flip this into the positive of what can you do? Yeah. And it doesn't matter how tiny it is. We'll start there.
Yeah, because we can always do something.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed this little segment. I feel like I've learned something here too. This is great.
Isn't it good?
Let us know what you think.
Well, actually, and we were going to talk about another little topic today. Well, we were going to review something, but we haven't got something this week. But were you going to? Oh, you want to talk about your? Did you want to talk about your?
I forgot what it was.
Pelvic floor.
Oh my God, yeah, pelvic floor. Yeah. So I think this is it, right? So, going into the woo part of it. So if we look at our womb space and our pelvic floor, so like our it's going to go like to
She's off. She's going down the woo.
I am going down. This is the thing, though. Like, I think when I mentioned, I'm really aware that Sophie's husband is currently films I'm about to talk about my vagina. But again, right, so for me, from a woo-woo perspective, our womb space is that holds all our creative energy. Our sexual energy is our life force energy. And you can do these things you can not do these things. You can do Kegel exercises with Kegel weights, which essentially is a weight that looks like a large sperm. You can get like a yoni egg.
It looks like a what?
It looks like a large weighted sperm. I've got mine from Amazon.
Weighted? I don't know what you're saying.
It's like a weighted thing that you place inside your vagina and then you clench it, right? But from kind of like a spiritual perspective, you can also get like jade eggs and like do you know like jade the crystal? Mm. Yeah, so you can get a jade egg, you can get a rose quartz egg. But when you work with the egg as a crystal, you place. I'm really aware, Paul is. Hi, Paul. You
This is
okay?
good.
You can listen.
I do lots of this chat.
Okay, cool. Where's Alex when you need him? Actually, I don't think Alex knows. But anyway, so I did this. I first became aware of like the jade egg and the benefits of using a crystal because it's weighted. Because it gives you a great pelvic floor and it tightens up all the muscles around it, but also not you actually. When I first used a jade egg, and it was not a jade egg, sorry, it was a rose quartz egg. Literally, I felt like I had a lot of sexual trauma leave my body.
So you just pop it inside, like?
Yeah, so you pop it inside. So we did, I did a jade egg ceremony, and it was like a 3-day training about 4 years ago. So my background, I had sexual abuse when I was a child. And when I started to get into self-development and working with like beliefs and mindset and everything like that, I definitely went more into the spiritual, and I wanted to really understand like how I could help myself and how I could become better and how I could release sort of lots of heavy experiences. And even now, actually, sex is one thing that I love, but at the same time, I haven't felt safety around a lot of men. Does that make sense? But I've not really acknowledged that I haven't felt safe around men up until doing this work, but everything makes sense. But when I started to use the jade egg, it's great for your pelvic floor, but there was a lot of self-love and acceptance and control to do with having safety in my body. And I don't know where I'm going with this. I feel like I've just said a lot of information.
No, that's good because I think of it solely from the benefit of your pelvic floor.
Your pelvic floor, yeah.
Because we've had a lot of children.
I know.
Because pregnant, even if you've had a cesarean section, pregnancy itself, but even if you haven't had any children, basically what I have now realised as a GP of many years is that essentially all women at a certain age are going to struggle with urinary incontinence. Trouble with sex because of our pelvic floor muscles. So we all need to be doing it, and you need to be doing it before it. You shouldn't get to the point of now I'm weeing all the time, So we need to be doing it preventatively, or even if you have got to the point where it's bad, you can still train it way better. So I got a little device called a Perifit.
What was that?
Oh, it's very technological. So this is...
I like it's got like jade egg Perifit.
Yeah, yours is
crystal
like...
in your vagina.
Yours is like back to nature and spirit. Mine is like a little kind of computer thing. So it kind of looks a bit like a plastic tampon.
Yeah, okay.
I pop it in and it Bluetooths to my phone. And then... You play these games on your phone.
Wow.
For example, like a bird flying through the
and
sky.
You've got to catch
it has to go through hoops and stuff. And the more you squeeze, the higher the bird goes.
Wow.
So you've got to try and get the bird through the hoop, and then you've got to drop the bird, and then or you fly a plate. There's all these different things. So you're just squeezing, and it's meant to do it, I think, for 10 minutes a night.
Wow.
But it's one of those things that I don't get around to doing as much.
You see, I put mine, so not the jade egg. So again, if you look at so I've got Kegel weights and I've got a jade egg. So the Kegel weights are more kind of... like a weighted exercise you would do. The jade egg is more kind of like a ceremonial, just reclaiming your sexuality and reclaiming the safety in your body, because it's very sort of, it's more of a self-practice. But the Kegel weight is literally, I'm like, I'm going to brush my teeth now. I'm like, oh yeah. But at first, I don't know if you do it like sometimes I find it quite hard to like tense myself, and I'm like, am I tense? Do you know what I mean? But I think I must...
To hold them in?
Yeah, no, totally, because I don't think I've got a weak pelvic floor in the sense of, so even though I've 5 children, like I've never wet myself. Do you know what I mean? Even when I've been on a trampoline, I'm like, oh, okay. So I think my pelvic floor must be relatively strong. But again, from more of a spiritual aspect, I'm thinking, is it strong because I'm literally trying to tense everything up to not let anything there? Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
From kind of like a stress response. And certainly using the jade eggs has helped me sort of reclaim parts of me. But the Kegel weights, like literally, I find sometimes trying to tense, I'm doing it now, but sometimes it feels uncomfortable, not in the sense of, I don't know if I'm ever doing it right. Do you get what I mean? Even though the weights are there and they're staying in there. And when I'm trying to hold them in even more, I'm like, okay, I'm holding them in, but I feel like I'm not doing something right.
Well, you could try the Perifit, and it tells you if you're doing it right.
Okay, imagine that.
Oh, there's a free app, NHS Squeezy app, for people who are in the UK, and that's a free app, and it's really good, and it teaches you how to do it as well.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I'm like, Sophie, what mark are you on? We'll play the game against each other.
Yeah, actually, but I am very competitive, so that would be good.
Yeah, you would probably win. I'm like, I'm not doing it, bloody right. I give up.
All right, brilliant. So we've covered a lot. We've covered weight loss.
Yeah.
We've covered talking to your children about self-esteem and body shapes. Yeah. And then we've talked about
Kegel
vaginas. Well, so I reckon should we call it a day there?
Let's call it a day.
But yeah, we'd love to hear from you guys. What topics do you want us to cover? What have you found interesting? Let us know what your thoughts are. Obviously, review and share this. That'll help more people hear it. And actually, on the next episode, I thought it'd be interesting if I set myself a challenge to start meditating now, because it's something I've always meant to do and never get around to. So if I promise you that I'm going to do it, I'm going to have to. And I think it's really interesting to talk about the benefits of meditation, how best to do it, what the science is behind it.
And I'll talk about the spiritual aspect. And actually, we're also going to be reviewing an LED light, because every time I go into a meditative state, I use my LED light because it's great for my skin, but also it takes me to a higher state of consciousness.
2 for 1.
Yeah, boom.
Brilliant. All right, we will see you then.